Here for you.
We're live.
Yeah. 10%.
10%. Welcome to the Engineering Committee meeting for June 21st, 2023. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and please stand for the pledge. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Both directors are here and staff. Item 1 is approval of the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes.
A motion to approve the agenda?
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Agenda is approved. Public comment. There is nobody at present besides staff and nobody online. Okay, so that was a quickie. Approval of the minutes. Did you have any changes to the minutes? I didn't have any changes.
Nope. A motion to approve the minutes?
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 3, approval of minutes. That gets us into the meat. OSD recharge study, number 4. Is there any advancement on that?
No, they're the environmental studies and it's the Joshua Tree mitigation that we need to hear back from. That's in there. That's in with the state for review.
For review of their plans for
Of their
the
project.
recharge,
That's correct.
the recharge site, which is just to the northwest, is it, of our Sheep Creek property, correct?
It'll be on Cayucos and Oasis, west of Oasis Road, north of the aqueduct,
North of the aqueduct.
in between wells 6B, 6A, 10, 11, 12.
Thank you. Did you have any?
No, thank you.
Okay. Item 5, discussion regarding the water system.
So I'm happy to report on their pumps and well services agreement that we actually did not utilize that contract, but we were able to fix Booster 3A, Booster B, the suction can that had the hole in it. The hydraulic cement and epoxy worked flawlessly. It's back online. It's been pressure tested and it's running. So we kind of have a multifaceted approach to those problems. Our tank and rehabilitation and maintenance contract, tank 1C, number 2, interior coating has been sandblasted. They're gonna begin the recoating here very shortly. They're just finishing up the internal sandblasting. So they're right about 50%. That should be back online here in the coming weeks.
That's the only tank being worked on at the time.
Correct.
Because it's summer, so.
So, unfortunately, tank 1A, number 2, has some moist spots around it. We did take it offline. We are in the process of identifying where it is leaking from. We vacuum tested about 60% of it. We think it's under the center column, and we're going to address that here in the coming weeks. Our service line replacements, we've done 52 in this fiscal year. That's a little lower. We've kind of reprioritized things through this year. We did complete that 5,900 foot of 12-inch ductile. That's all done. Everybody has all their fingers and toes. We also did the Piñon Hills pipeline, and George confirmed, along with Tony, the data loggers, we gained 20 PSI.
Yeah, so while we were ranging just above 20, we're about 38.
We have also kind of shuffled a little around the water replacement project, the water meter replacement project. If we see that 68% complete number, we're tackling that fully in-house now. Full steam ahead there. We got another 40 to 50 done today. We're hoping to close that out in the next 8 to 10 months. We're kind of bound. We get about 325 delivered every month, and we're trying to just turn those around as fast as we can, get them in the ground to just close that project out.
You're receiving about 125 a month or so?
325.
325 a
Correct.
month.
So we're confident in the next 8 to 10 months that project will be complete and behind us. Being out and speaking with customers, it seems very well received, especially when we bring up all of the fantastic features those meters offer with the portal and what basically the customer facing aspect that it allows them to see their usage in real time, the leaks within 24 hours. Just talking and interacting with folks, that seems very well received in the community.
So do you actually, like, when you replace them, do you give them the information about?
Not everyone.
Not everyone?
Not everyone's
Okay.
always home, but we have the information on our website. They get a mailer.
Goes out in our
Correct.
mailings on the, okay, with the bills?
The drilling, outfitting, equipping of well 15, we're about 50%. Again, we've drilled it, we've test pumped it. We are working with Edison on finalizing the design. We will be bringing before the board very shortly the proposals for the pump, the motor, and the variable frequency drive, basically all the electrical components that'll drive it. We're about halfway through dead end flushing. We'll be wrapping that up here right before summer. And now that tank 1A2, we did wash that out, so our tank washouts for this season, and I hate to say year because we do break it up. We begin late October, early November. We do 10 a year, but that is split between basically a calendar year to calendar year, but it's a fiscal. So we make sure we get our 10 we get per the contract in that fiscal. And then the last page just has some graphics. About this time of year, the fill station starts getting quite used. Again, everyone we seem to talk to, well received. The community seems to really embrace that. We've sold right about 2 million gallons out of there, and the revenue there's on the back page. And that's about all I have. Yeah, we'll cover the last one under number 8.
The revenue's on the back page.
Correct.
That's for,
That's just the fill station.
For-
That is just in
from-
water, wet water sold. That does not reflect the accounts. So folks, Jen, is it, for an account at the fill station, is it $350 a month, somewhere in there?
Something like that, yeah.
That number does not reflect that. That is just dollars to cents water sold.
so the 32,000 is for the fiscal year or the calendar year?
That is calendar for the year
From
2023.
January to date, it's
Correct.
roughly $33,000.
Correct.
Okay.
And we can bring it fiscal if you'd like it. This is just
No.
a graphic to kind of illustrate. I mean, 2 million gallons in about 6 months. We're kind of tracking just like we did last year, actually a little higher than last year.
Yeah, it just tracks the volume and the revenue, and see it goes up in the summer.
Oh, quite heavily.
And have you noticed any changes in water levels within the basin?
We have, our water levels have come up several feet.
So 14 is not being used, correct? It's,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've pumped,
so you're getting records on that, and that is going to reflect the basin status versus, pumping of wells in which that affects the drawdown and the statics. So well 14 being fairly well by itself and upstream of the 10, 11, 12 should reflect good water level changes.
and if that's the desire of the committee, we'd be happy to bring back. So most of our wells now are equipped with electronics transducers. It's minimal effort to pull history on those, actually quite simple, and that's where almost all of our soundings are derived. It's instantaneous. You look on a screen, and if you would like, we'd be happy to bring back.
Yeah, I'd like to see
statistical
in
data.
July for the
Okay.
July meeting, what the,
On page 7.
some good representative levels within the, and also, do you get the data from the, one of the dairy wells that
Yes.
that Mojave put in transducer? right?
So they have not equipped any of our wells with transducers yet.
Oh.
That is on their scope. About a
Thought they
year,
had.
year and a half ago, it is proposed, it's approved. They just don't have the manpower, it seems, to get those equipped.
Gosh,
We don't have SCADA down there, so I don't, if we were to try to read it with our SCADA, I don't have any PLCs to drive that transducer. I can't capture that read.
well, you can hook it up to a tablet.
We can get a
They
field read.
auto read, and then you just hook it up to your computer. If
And
you,
well-
if you had them that are, isolated.
Well 14, we've only pumped 0.89 acre foot so far this year. We pump anywhere from about 0.15 to 0.2 acre foot per month, just to keep the line fresh, take samples, and the cost per replacement acre foot this year is $1,055.
1,055.
Correct.
And what's for Mojave?
630,
Yeah,
650?
it's 630, and the 1,055 is last year's, but they're not gonna have the updated numbers till the end of this month, so.
Okay. Okay. Did you have any other questions about the rehabbing, the service line replacement program or anything?
Nope, no questions.
Okay. Smithson Springs? How's that doing? Growing? Weeds are growing?
Weeds are growing, yes. Mr. Bartz and I drove up to the spring yesterday afternoon. I guess the pond is pretty low and very weedy, and nothing's coming out.
Desedimentation basin.
That's what you call it? Yeah,
That's what we have to call it.
It's a sedimentation.
Sedimentation.
Desedimentation basin.
Yeah,
That right there.
sediment collecting area.
It's very green from that point up to the spring. So I think it's in line for some vegetation mitigation up there, as well as inside the sediment basin.
Yeah, so what's not going subsurface is being used by the phreatophytes.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. We flew the drone, took some pictures. We can have that for your enjoyment. Yeah, so it seems pretty dry up there. It was surprising to see that, considering what we experienced the last several months in the high desert and on our foothills. Don and I were just scratching our head why we haven't seen more coming out of this.
Yeah, there's still water coming down the Mojave River,
Absolutely, yes.
and the Santa Ana River is flowing. So I
And-
would have thought there'd be pretty good flow up there.
Yeah, and down even Sheep Creek Wash, flows stopped maybe 3 weeks ago. I believe. I don't drive it often. I know our field guys drive it predominantly. Kind of shows in front of Sean's truck what they run into.
Yeah, there was a little bit coming below Phelan Road a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if there is still
It
there.
kind of stopped by the time you get down to Duncan. So it's kind of just petering itself back up the
Yeah,
canyon.
it's going underground.
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any other questions?
No.
Okay, we'll move to item 7. That is the state regulations update.
Do you wanna mention the Chrome 6?
Yeah. So the State Water Resource Control Board's forming stakeholder groups to begin the process of a formal adoption of an MCL for hex chrome. No numbers was in their proposal for the focus groups. History kind of repeats itself, anywhere from 8 to 12 months, I think we're gonna have an MCL. Again, we're rumblings of 10 part per billion. It's very much what we're thinking.
So you're estimating that, based on how they move, be about 8 to 10 months,
8 to 12, yeah.
8 to
historically, when they start forming stakeholder groups, I've seen it happen in six.
Has to go through the process.
Yes. It's their formal MCL adoption. First, they start looking at public health goals, the economic impacts. They'll weigh all those, hold several public meetings, and then formalize and finalize the adoption process. And then we'll have a new MCL, and or maybe we'll get lucky and have a public health goal, but I would highly, highly, highly unlikely. I think it will be an MCL.
Okay. Anything else? Anything on PFAS or anything?
No, and we're going to bring something to the next board meeting regarding some information that the consultant with MWA gave us for our district. So we'll have a formal presentation on that.
Okay.
And then when they do come up with the new MCL, I think you had mentioned last meeting that we would have a time limit before we would be actually required to be at that.
Correct. So
Okay.
when they formalize a new MCL, it's not a drop dead, if you will. It's always an implementation or a phasing in. Usually large water systems, and we are classified as a large water system due to our connection number with the state. Any MCL adoption is 4 years, typically. Now they can extend that, they can shorten it. That general guidance is 4, which if they were to adopt the MCL in 2024, that pushes the compliance window for our district into 2028. We've mitigated chromium in quite a few of our wells. That is even budget friendly, and the board approved last meeting our new 10-year CIP, which kind of reflects where staff ideas are headed into 2028, kind of pushing that back. So we don't really need to mitigate those wells necessarily immediately. We can use our 4-year compliance window to kind of achieve some of the work later on to maximize the expenditure. So we're not equipping things that are going to wear out in 4 to 5 years. And as Director Roberts asked last meeting, I believe it was an action item, how long does a pneumatic packer last? We did reach out to several professionals, anywhere from 4 to 15 years. Water chemistry plays almost 100% on that. Our Langelier index is relatively low, which means we don't have very aggressive water.
Yeah.
I would expect give or take 10 years. About how long pumps tend to last, submersible a little less. We're not using packers on any submersibles, and we don't really intend to or see the need to right now. Hoping to see historically in the past precipitation on the mountain, we actually see our concentration of hexachrome drop about 1 part per billion, and that usually happens late August, early September. Really curious to see what that number does this year. We're not seeing it yet. We still do sample chromium quarterly just to build a database, and with all the rain we had this year, I expect to see that even come down a little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you don't have to pump the wells so hard either, then you're not pulling, if there's more water on top of the pump, then you're not pulling the bottom section so hard, because, you know, the porosity has a big effect on how hard you have to pull to get that water out. And if, well, you know, maybe it will be a hot summer, but if we're not having to pump those wells so hard, then I would be curious to see too. I think it'll be lower than.
And if you'd like, we can
In the
bring that
past.
back as an action item maybe in December. That way we kind of have this year's historicals to kind of see, and it is late August, sometime September when we start to see that decline, so it'll be interesting, and we're happy to bring that back this December.
Yeah, that would be fine. And then if it looks pretty good, I think probably a board presentation could be set up after that.
Absolutely, and Jen hosts the water quality database. We've got years going back of data quarterly. That's why we kind of stayed on the schedule, just to have that database to draw from.
Okay.
That sounds good. Okay. Nothing else on the state regulations then. We'll move to item 8, which is review of current projects.
So as we mentioned before, where we're at on well 15, we'll be bringing to the board shortly the variable frequency drive, the pump, the motor. The pipeline is all done, it's flush, back-teed, ready. The permit application we submitted several weeks ago, so we are in the process of permitting it. All necessary samples were completed. We've asked our sanitary engineer to prioritize well 15 because of its production capacity, but both well 15 and well 17's permit applications are submitted. Well 17's power pole was set today. We've been working with our neighbors, Asplund here. They were kind enough at no cost to the district to set a power pole. They even provided the pole, the labor. So it's been a mutually beneficial relationship. So well 17, as soon as we have the permit in hand and finalize the power, so with the pole, all we got to do is set the meter box for the electric meter, and everything else is done there. So we're getting very, very close on 17, and 15 is not far behind.
Is Edison moving on 15?
At a glacial pace.
Yes, I meant,
The
but if
unfortunate
they are
part-
moving, then,
We asked for lead times on the electrical equipment for well 15, and it's about 6 months out for the panels that we'll need. That's why we want to get that before the board sooner than later, so we can get that ordered. I expect Edison to probably be a little further out even than that. It is-
Southwest did chlorinate it, right? They,
Yes, they did.
okay. And then had it run a back T and,
Yes, it passed.
Yeah.
We ran 2. And
Okay.
well 15's design is with our Edison planner. Chris and I email them usually 2 times, 3 times a week to just kind of keep a bug in their ear. And that's about all we
well,
can do.
next summer, right?
I'm confident it'll be online next summer.
That's good. Takes a long time now. Do you have any other
No, thank you.
questions about our new wells and stuff? Okay. Are we reviewing capital projects?
Well, this is the question I had on the review of capital projects, if it's the review of current projects. I think what I just want to add to 9, if it was in part of 8, was tank 6A, the CEQA, that we brought to the board. That CEQA, we're looking at 6 to 8 months before completion. So that's not surprising to hear. It used to be 60 to 90 days. It's just the nature of where everyone is at right now with projects.
6 months, huh?
Yeah. Yes, and we had our surveyors up there. They completed the topographic survey last week. We should have that in hand for preliminary design. And I think eventually we'll get to a point to have the geotechnical study done at that site. With that, I mean, we have budgeted $100,000 for this coming fiscal year for the studies and engineering for that project. So, I mean, we're far ahead of that schedule to be completed before.
Does that money include any physical work like retaining walls or things like that that might have to be done?
We don't know that until we have the studies. and
Well, I mean,
is not
that money is
included.
not,
Is not included.
is
Just
for that.
studies
It's
and
just,
engineering.
just for the engineering.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, what we've already done to that side was to fence in the property.
Yeah.
That's the only work that was done, and on top of the minor grading that was accomplished up at 6A. Yeah, so any of the connections with the existing tank, any of the infrastructure, it's not included into this fiscal year. So we'll know better of what's required when we get into the study.
Yeah.
So then my question is, and I don't know if this is the review of the capital projects on the table that we went through.
Yeah,
last
I'm
meeting.
assuming it's the table from last time and it wasn't removed.
And-
I would move tank 6A under item 8
Item
as a
yeah.
bullet point,
And then remove.
and then take off number 9, because the capital projects was for the budget,
Okay.
so. As far as I can see, is that?
Yeah, no,
make
that
sense?
totally makes sense.
I'm pretty sure that's what it was for.
Yeah, the way it was worded, it kind of wasn't clear on what it meant, but that was my assumption.
Okay, so 9 can be removed. Nothing else on that then. 10, staff report.
I have none to report.
I have nothing more to report.
It's summer and you're busy.
We are busy.
Well, we're keeping you busy with lots of stuff to do. Okay. Review of action items, a prior meeting, I think you mentioned the Packer.
Correct. And this meeting's action item will be adding the SCADA well levels for hydrographs under 5 new bullet point.
And then some type of summary for late fall.
Correct.
Also, I'd like to bring back the project, the recharge project, the Mojave project. Just like what we brought back, well, what we brought to the committee, I don't know, maybe 8 months ago, 7 months ago, just so that one of our committee members can get familiar with the project. And that's the 2 monitoring wells and kind of generally the location of the recharge basin. And we call it general location. We like to call it that. And the report that was attached to it. So you can get familiar with it.
That's a good idea. Just bring it back for a quick review, which it's on here anyways, so it's under item 4. You can
Yeah.
just bring it back and have a summary next time.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Okay, anything else for that? Let's see, we have the action items for the current meeting, we've described that. Setting agenda, that would be removing item 9 and adding tank 6A under item 8. And I don't think there's any other changes, is there?
No, sir.
Covers it all?
Looks good. Anything else?
Nope, that was it.
Anything else from staff? All good?
Nothing to add.
Okay, so we have a meeting for July 19th, 2023. With that, we will adjourn at 4:58. Thank you.